this, or welcome to this Straight Outta BS podcast again. Thank you guys so much for your support. It really means the world. Thank you guys for my Patreons. Thank you to my supporters on Spotify as well. You guys are awesome. There's been a specific person that has both donated and signed up for both platforms. So I'm like, what the heck? Okay, well, that's cool. That's awesome. I really appreciate you. I never expected that, but all donations are reinvested in the podcast. So thank you guys. It means the world. Thank you guys for all the support that you've done with sharing, liking. It really helps the algorithm more than you know. And we just need to keep this going and keep this momentum up and get these places shut down. So let's keep it up. And I want to do a moment of silence for the person still struggling with intrusive thoughts or addiction or anything like that. So on the count of 3, I'm going to do a moment of silence. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you for that. And without further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce my guest for the day. Go ahead and introduce yourself and where you went and what year.
Hi, my name is Mackenzie Ann Bose. I was institutionalized at Spring Creek Lodge Academy from, I believe it was May 2001 until sometime in 2002. And then I was sent to Tranquility Bay until August of 2003.
Okay, and can you walk us through like a little bit of like what was happening before you got sent to the program?
Yeah.
Did you know you were going to get sent there, stuff like that?
Yeah, so, sorry, I'm shaking already. So when I was younger, I was kind of, getting into some trouble and stuff. My relationship with my family wasn't super great. My parents weren't really around. I had a nanny growing up, and my first word was Jody, her name, not like mom or dad. So that kind of shows that it wasn't super tight with my family. And when I was about 8 years old, I tattled to my grandma that my parents were getting a divorce and they wanted to hide that. And so that kind of stemmed into like the beginning of like getting into the habit of lying and stuff, like lying about stuff, making things up. I felt like, oh, this is what I need to do to make things work with these people. And, with them coming in and out of my life as a youngster, it didn't really feel like I knew who was who and what they demanded all this respect and like, who are you? Like, so beforehand, I had started like experimenting with some drugs, smoking pot. My mom kind of turned me on to that actually, and a little bit of alcohol. It wasn't that bad yet. Post-program, it got way worse. But I took like LSD and some mushrooms, I think, for the first time. It was like super prolific, but I was like running away, going out to concerts. I'm from Minneapolis. We have First Avenue, great venue, lots of rad bands. I was sneaking out. Sometimes I would take my mom's car. She didn't seem like she was too upset about that because she understood she used to do the same. But it definitely came back to haunt me because my dad was very controlling. After that incident with my grandma, he started, having me go to psychiatrists and therapists and putting me on these different drugs at like 8 years old to control my behavior. And so I started getting a little out of control, obviously. And it created a chemical imbalance, which led to more substance abuse down the line and wanting those things. So I got taken early morning in May. I believe it was around the 15th or 20th of May, roughly. These two guys, my mom came into my room. I noticed she was doing laundry and stuff the night before. And she was like real quiet. And then she came into my room that morning and she woke me up and said, hey, remember that place that I was talking about? She threatened me with Mexico a few times. Or my dad was threatening me through her or whatever. And they came, she was like, well, you're not going to go to Mexico. You're going to go to a place in Montana. And then the two guys came in, these two big guys. I was like, in a tank top and underwear. And I stood up and I started to get aggressive. And they grabbed me, pulled me out of my room. My mom kind of got defensive and protected me a little bit against that and allowed me to get dressed. And I was just breaking down at that point, like, what is happening? And that's when they paraded me up after I got dressed enough to what my mom thought was appropriate. And these two big men took me out up through the front of the house where my dad and my stepmom and my mom were all sitting at that time, and took me out to a big white van and took me off to the airport. And they told me I was going to go to this like really cool ranch, and there's like horses, and it's like camp, it'll be fun. It'll help you and all this stuff. And so I was like, okay, well, I thought about running away, but they convinced me to just be chill. And so, I try to be chill most of the time.
Yeah.
And fucking sure enough, I ended up flying in. We ended up in Montana, and I went into that big old trailer right out front and started doing my intake. And that's when it hit me that this is not what it seems. And they started going through all my clothes, going all through my stuff, and being like, oh, you can't have this, you can't have that. And I was like, whoa, what? And I was asking questions like, oh, there's horses? Like, are we going to, like, I grew up with horses, and they were like, no, that's not how this works. And that's when I saw the reality of it. And they brought me into, I think it was Eternity Family over there. And it was pretty late at night, so they threw me in the shower, did the delousing, had me, jump up and down with the towel just loosely around me to make sure I wasn't smuggling drugs. And then I sat up on that bed all night. I had a shaved head with long bangs that were like blue or some purple or blue or something, and they got a lot of joy out of cutting that awfully. And I just remember sitting there stewing all night, just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what is this place? And the next day, they started, the girls got up, got in line, did the head count, and were doing their routine of getting their beds and their baskets ready and all that, the 5-minute shower thing. And I was just taken back, like, what the fuck? I was very angry. I didn't really understand, what was happening to me. And it was really tough because, the way that I looked, obviously with a short haircut and everything, they kind of profiled me into, one of the gay kids or whatever, so they threw me into that realm and treated me as such. And, I was 15 years old. I hadn't even had sex yet. Like, I was like, what? I don't know. And just kind of went along with it to, keep my head down and stay out of trouble. But, it was hell. It was really shitty. That first, few weeks of the realization of like, this is not what I was told this is going to be. This is intense. And we had to like walk in sync with each other, heel to toe, like very close, shoulder, like elbow length apart from each other in line to go anywhere. So like at any point someone could call elbows. And I remember just getting elbowed right in the back real hard because, everyone was pissed off. And if I happened to be behind or in front of somebody that wanted to fucking hit me, they would. And I just remember, they would make us look down anytime the boys would come around or any of that. And I just didn't understand what the fuck, I was like, how is this going to help, And so shit didn't go very well at Spring Creek Lodge for me. I was seeking a little bit of attention to, I was kind of cutting on myself a little bit and, I talked to one of the nurses. I was getting headaches a lot. And so she was like, something's going on. And then she ended up finding out that I had been cutting on myself because I was just so upset and I didn't know, what was happening. I think it was just kind of like to feel something else, really, because I was just so angry. And
did you get thrown in the intervention for that?
I got put into OP. It's called the Hobbit there. OP was Tranquility Bay. I got thrown in the Hobbit for a little bit and then had to do the worksheets thing for a while, which was really intense. And the girl I was in there with at the time on the other side of me, because there's that dividing wall, she was like cutting herself and like smearing blood everywhere. It was like shit on the walls. Like, it was intense. It was wild. And I was like, holy fuck, dude. Like, I don't need to be here. Like, what is this torture? Like, you don't get a pillow, you don't get anything. Like, you're just on this really uncomfortable wooden plank with like the minimal carpet padding underneath, and you have to sleep there through the night. And you get like, I can't remember what they fed us, like a bean and rice burrito or something stupid like that. Take away all your privileges to have condiments or anything that tasted good.
Yeah.
And I think I was in there for I can't remember how long, a couple of nights maybe. And then I was able to go back and do the worksheets thing to, get my points back. And they had us in the little cubicles and just, isolated. And then just getting up to do fitness, which they would just try to make us, work us as hard as they fucking could. I think they got a lot of pleasure out of that, some of the staff people. But yeah, over time, I started going to the seminars, and they were all right. I had a good time. I chose out a lot, but I think my discovery or focus, whichever one you do, the I don't know, where you become that character, like the Lady in Red, Jonathan.
Where you do your stretch?
Yeah, the stretch. Yeah.
Focus. Yeah.
That was focus. So yeah, I got through discovery. I think I chose out the first time. Can't remember. But when I did Jonathan Livingston Seagull was my thing on that one. I remember that really well. And felt kind of good after that. But then it was, after that came accountability. I chose out of that motherfucker like 5 times, dude.
Yeah, that was hard. That one is the worst one. That was the one with the homework where you had to do it exactly how they said it. That was the only seminar I chose out of, and I chose out of it like 4 fucking times. And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like I did everything like better. Like
doing everything you asked.
I rebelled my first year, but once I actually worked my program, when they threatened me with Jamaica, then I got through all my seminars. So when I started choosing out multiple times, I was like, "What is happening?"
Yeah,
it was crazy.
And it was what was her name? Miss Joy or Jan or something like that? God, what was her name?
Yeah, Miss Jan, I think.
She was awful. She made me believe that I really hated myself. Like this was all something that I was choosing for myself. And, I was like, no, what the fuck? That was the beginning of me realizing that there was a brainwashing. Like, obviously now I realize it, but that's when I started to get the change, And once I got through accountability seminar or whatever, I ended up going into kind of like a upper level family rep, Miss Christy Brown. Yeah. And she put me on some pretty whack ass challenges that really fucked me up pretty bad.
Were you on like an upper level challenge and then put on challenges? Is that what happened?
No, I never made it past. I don't even think I really got to level 3. I just kind of like resided on 2 over there because the way that I felt, like it was super cliquey, and as somebody who's a little bit different, ADHD, learning disability, just kind of like quiet, but have kind of a masculine presence. I was kind of put into this like I remember getting in trouble because all the girls would conspire against me that I was having inappropriate relationships all the time. Like, and I was just hanging out, like having fun, like playing cards. I remember one time I leaned on one of the bunks and was playing cards with one of the other girls, and she was all the way back to the wall. There was nothing fucking inappropriate in my opinion. We were just doing our thing, and we went to work the kitchen. So yeah, I had gotten level 3. Went to work the kitchen that next day, or a day or 2 later, and then they pulled me and her out of the fucking kitchen and dropped us both for having an inappropriate relationship because everybody said, oh, these two are getting too close and buddy. And I'd been put on like black cloud, couldn't talk to people because they thought that I was a lesbian and I was going to just like bang all these chicks,
Yeah.
And that wasn't it. Go ahead.
Was that something that they tried to make you admit to, like that you were a lesbian and stuff like that? Was that?
They tried so fucking hard, and eventually I just went along with it. Like Melissa Bablinka and I started kind of getting a little close, and she'd like give me a kiss on the cheek or whatever, but I never was like responsive. Like she did her thing, but I was like, whatever, dude, passive as fuck. And then somebody said that Christy Brown called me out and was like, you're having an inappropriate relationship with Melissa. And so I thought it was Melissa Bablinka that she was talking about. She's talking about a totally different Melissa from my family at the time. And so I was just like, yeah, I guess, whatever. And it was like, sure. Yes, I am. And then I, got dropped down and all this stuff. She made me wear these like really ugly dresses, like these really fucking disgusting, like almost like muumuus with like, I don't know, they're just like Mormon clothes or something, like the frilly fucking thing with the disgusting like floral pattern you see in like grandma's house on wallpaper. And she made me walk around like that because I wasn't feminine enough. Like, I wasn't in touch with that side of me. And like, I have all brothers, like I was a
That's
tomboy.
just what you were around when you were growing up. So it's what you emulate, you know what I mean?
I was hanging with the boys because that's how I grew up. That's what I had to do. That's what I was surrounded by. And I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. It's not like, I wasn't promiscuous. I wasn't, like, I didn't even have sex until right before I turned 18. And for the first time. And it was just like, they just kept putting me in this fucking hole with that, like the whole time. And just, I felt humiliated, like having to wear those dresses. I felt disgusting. And people were like, oh, you're so pretty. And I'm like, you're so full of shit, dude. This is the dumbest thing in the world. Like, I'm uncomfortable as fuck, And it was
that
just
like the challenges they would put you on? Was the dress?
Yeah, that was one of the challenges that they put me on. Besides like separations and Black Cloud. And then I think our whole family had to do the log, where we all have to like carry that big ass log together and sleep under it. And like, it was hell with that stuff. And then they would like wake us up randomly in the middle of the night, and we'd have to go out onto the lawn, like, and we were consequent if we didn't have our bras on, or whatever. So it's like you're freaking out the whole time. And then at night when you're like, oh, is this going to happen again? Do I keep it on? Do I, like wearing it half on, like, it was really uncomfortable, and just, it made for a lot of stress. I didn't get a lot of good sleep there at all. So, and then eventually, over time, Christy thought it appropriate, and my parents thought it appropriate to transfer me over to Tranquility Bay.
Okay, so that was your parents' decision, or the program's decision, or both?
I think it was both. I know it was a financial kind of deal. They're like, man, she's been here a long time. I know my mom came to the facility at Spring Creek Lodge, and I saw her. I wasn't supposed to see her, but they let me sit down with her in an office and excuse me one second, and have like a little meet and greet with her. And she looked at me and she was like, wow, you look different. She could kind of tell. I knew she was very like, she had that like skeptical look on her face, like, what the fuck is going on with my kid? And so they made the decision to save money to send me to a more affordable facility, and that was Tranquility Bay. My dad came out, got me, and I remember him flying with me over there. We didn't really talk too much. Thank you. And he just was adamant about it. And I remember we got in there, and he pretty much left me at the gate. Like, that was as far as he could go. They didn't let anyone in there. He didn't get to see any of the shit,
Yeah.
So Mama Precious took me over to the nurse. Mama Precious was hilarious and terrifying. I don't know if anyone can relate to this, but she was a big woman, big Jamaican lady. Like, you didn't want to get fucked up by this lady. She scared me pretty quickly. Facial hair, kind of like, just really, you're like, oh crap. And so she took me down to the nurse. They stripped me down, checked me out, made their notes, did their thing. And I had been, when I went to SCL, they took me off a bunch of medication. So I was, transitioning with that. And then when I went to Jamaica, my mom just sent vitamins over. So they made sure that I took vitamins, which was cool because that was nice, like,
yeah.
I made it through that place because like I didn't get malnutrition. My mom cared enough, to make sure that she did that. And so yeah, they took me up to Challenger Family, and the first night I got up there, I was on a top bunk. I can't remember who my bunkie was, But we're right over the boys' OP, observation placement. And the first night I get in there, like the windows aren't windows, they're like planks that go like this. And just all night, you can just hear these boys just screaming and crying, begging for their moms. Like I was like, what the fuck? Because they told me it was going to be intense, you know? I needed that or whatever. And sure enough, I was like, holy shit, yeah, this is scary. So I minded my P's and Q's real well. And I never had any issues with like cultural indifference or anything like that, you know. So, and I listened to reggae, so it was easy for me to catch on to, you know, what they were saying. A lot of people, they would get a major disrespect consequence, you know, cat one, cat two, you know, for being disrespectful to staff for saying what, you know, or excuse me, instead of saying like, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time understanding it's me, instead of being like, you know, putting it on them, they'd take that as disrespectful. So a lot of girls would get in trouble for that. I think they threatened me with it a couple of times, and then I caught on pretty quickly. So kind of cruised right along on that. It was right after the incident with Valerie. I think it was several months after, but there was still like that vibe in there of that happening. They shut down the top part of our, you know, dorms because that's where she had jumped into the courtyard. And some of the girls in my family were there for that. And you could just really feel the energy was very like heavy with this sadness and people being really fucked up. So, you know, I drudged through it, and I had to start from ground zero all over again. You know, I couldn't keep any of my points levels, none of that shit. And the cool thing about Jamaica, they had a pool, and we got to use the pool. And I remember that being a good positive point. But yeah, the food was fucking awful. I can't remember what kind of fish they fed us, but it was like mackerel or something like you're not supposed to really be eating that shit. You know what I mean? Like, and the beans and rice that they gave us not all the time. The chef was fucking hot though, but they would make this stuff, and it tasted like cigarette butts sometimes. Like it was burnt out, and then the milk was that powdered milk mix, like the strawberry milk, Nesquik kind of stuff or whatever. And it was like for me for the first time, and they didn't have condiments there. There was none of that you had to worry about, like at Spring Creek Lodge, where they were so adamant about you getting, you know, oh, you can't have ketchup or you can't have brown sugar on your fucking oatmeal or whatever. They're like, nah, you get what you get and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pick your fucking milk or water and go. Just eat your food. And that was where they bombarded us with the tapes. And a lot of Deepak Chopra, a lot of Tony Robbins. I know that there's some other ones that were, you know, in there, but those seminars is when I really got to meet David Gilcrease. That motherfucker was wild for a seminar facilitator. I just remember being like, he would constantly call me out because I tried to like skate by a little bit. I was like, fuck, I've done this all before. But he would really push me and call me out and like kind of put me on the spot. But, you know, I feel like I got a little bit more in touch with myself because of it. I don't really have anything too negative to say other than obviously the conditions were hell, but I'm an optimist. So I made the best out of everything that I could. I never went to observation placement except for when I was sick, to sit there because they didn't have like sick bed or anything like that. And I never really got in trouble. I think maybe worksheets one time, you know, I got along pretty well there. The Jamaicans were super real with me. I mean, it was scary and terrifying, but, you know, I had Miss Campbell and Miss Bolton, and, you know, they at least, you could tell that they actually gave a shit about us. And I had a badass family. Like I had Noelle in there, Jessica Feehan, just to name a few, you know, just Lindsay, so many like badass chicks that had been through some shit and they had good relationships with the staff. So it was a lot easier for me to kind of learn from them on how to be with them, like what works. And so I feel like I kind of got lucky in going to Tranquility Bay because I did end up being able to move up faster. Like the vote ups weren't dictated by the kids, they were dictated by the staff and your family representative, who mine was Miss Nash. Gorgeous lady, by the way. So it was very, we all looked forward to it. I'm pretty sure. I know I did. I was like, oh, look at this beautiful woman. And that's fine if she's mad at me. Like, she seemed really level-headed and real with me. And I was able to move up. I was able to actually get upper levels. I got to level 4. And it was the first time. They dropped me because they thought I got a little cocky with consequences or whatever. But I was just trying to prove myself that I was working the program. And it just started going on to autopilot with it, you know, like getting up, getting used to the cold showers in the morning and getting used to, you know, washing everything by hand. And monsoon season comes in. We don't have any power. You know, we have to figure it out. And like the water wouldn't work sometimes. We'd have to be carrying big buckets full of water, or laundry, or, you know, whatever. And when I finally got, I think I was level 3, my mom came out to visit me and sat down with me by the pool and was talking to me a little bit. And, you know, just checking out the facility and stuff. And I could tell that she was very unhappy with the conditions. And I went and was able to get some phone calls at that point. That was the only time I ever really got many phone calls. I did get a few in Spring Creek, but that's where I feel like I really got a lot of work done in that sense. And
during
I
the
just
calls, during the phone calls, you feel like you got the most?
Like got through to my parents, like under the understanding, but it did seem like really scripted on their end a lot, you know, like I really felt like they were only allowed to say so much, and it was kind of me just like pouring out. But also you got your family rep standing right there, like, you know, oh, gotta watch your P's and Q's.
Yeah.
But you know, I did really value those phone calls, especially with my mom. And when she came out and talked to me, that meant a lot. My dad never came back out. He never visited any of the other facilities. He just kind of dropped me off. But that, you know, that's my dad. He admits it himself. He's kind of an asshole. So at least there's that.
Yeah.
But I got upper levels, and I thought I was in trouble, honestly, before because I got pulled finally in August. I got called down to the office the day before, and Miss Nash had me talk to my mom, and she's like, "I'm getting you out of there. I can't do this anymore. You've been in there since you're 15. I was going to be turning 18 in February that next year. You know, like I've been there a lot of the developmental time of my teens, and I didn't even get to experience regular high school. And so she really wanted that for me. So to get kind of back into being normalized to life outside, and she could tell that I kind of wasn't me. And so they told me the night before, and like, don't make a big deal about it, you know, don't get the girls all worked up. But I did say my goodbyes, and then the next day, you know, they pulled what they could out of our storage, which I don't know, half my shit was gone anyway by that point. I don't think I ever got anything really back. But yeah, they, you know, put me in a van and taped up my tub and took me to the airport. And that was the first time I got to see like Jamaica outside of, you know, the facility. And it was so cool. And I was super bummed out that I didn't get to like hang out there, because I was like, man, this is such a cool place. And, you know, like I said, it worked for me to an extent enough to where I was able to move up. And so I felt like I was building those relationships. I thought I was in trouble because that night before, Miss Smith caught me doing something. I don't remember what it was, but she's like, you can choose to consequent yourself or not, the night before the phone call. And that's what I thought I was getting called down to the office for, was like, oh, you got one too many, because if you get like 4 consequences, you're dropped from your level. And I was like, fuck, I just got this, you know, like I just got this going. And yeah, so that was just the hey, you're gonna go home. And I was like, oh, is this fucking real? Like, I was so stoked. I got to Miami and all my stuff came down and it busted open and went all over the little thing or whatever, the luggage. rails, and so I had to clean all that up. So it was really weird, you know. It was like everything was so awkward coming back, and you know, I would sit down as soon as when my mom picked me up, and she took me out to eat somewhere, and I was standing up talking, and she brought one of my friends, Lindsay Pleasance, who's been my like best friend forever. We have the same birthday. She hung out with my mom through all this stuff and got to like write me letters here and there, and that was awesome of her to do that. And they took me out to eat at this place. I can't remember. Some in Minneapolis, they have like a lot of quirky stuff. And I got some food, and I was standing up, and I put it in my mouth, and I automatically like sat down because you're not allowed to stand and eat in Jamaica in the TV. And everyone was just kind of like, "Are you all right? What's wrong?" You know, like these weird little things. And then they just put me right into high school, like the following month, the September, and they put me right into right into the high school there. And there's times where like I would catch myself, you raise your hand, you ask permission to stand, you come back and raise your hand, ask permission to sit, you know, like all these things. And one time, I think it was my sociology teacher, he was like, "Hey, you don't have to do that. You can just go." And I was like, oh, these weird little things that just like stuck with me for so long. And I didn't realize like that was just the tip of the iceberg of the shit that I would have to fucking be living with trauma-wise down the road. Led to a lot of, you know, abusive relationships. I dated two guys that were in the program with me, Josh Colvard and Brandon Todd. And I, you know, feel terrible about that stuff. Like we were kids and we were fucked up and we were super toxic and horrible for each other. And there's a lot of remorse that I feel for the way that I behaved with them, you know. And I was going through it too. And then it didn't help that I got right into doing sound engineering and stage management, front of house sound at the local venue right out the gate as soon as I graduated, and just introduced to the drug, sex, rock and roll, you know, right out the gate. So I had a really hard time, a lot of substance problems. May, though, this year, I should be about 14 years I've been clean off of opiates. So I feel like that's, yeah, and I'm hitting 1 month off of real alcohol. This is non-alcoholic. But, you know, I struggled a lot with substance abuse because I was so in my head and, you know, struggling with these feelings that, like, I couldn't talk to anybody about it. It's like nobody would understand, you know. And then, you know, seeing even the pictures of when they came, the BBC people came and took those photos, like that picture of the girls in a line. I'm the one with the chairs in the middle. It's on my background on Facebook. Like, that's the only picture I have of that. But I remember that shit when it went down. And it was just like, we're not allowed to talk to these people. And I knew I could feel that they were trying to help. You know, they wanted to help us. But it's like, through the glass, you know, you can't. I wanted to just scream out for help, and it was really hard to just be shut down all the time. But that's what I had to do to get through it and survive. And I just kept my nose to the grindstone, and I did really good in school because of it. You know, I had something to do, and that was good. But I mean, when I got out of there, it was so hard to relearn how to just exist as a normal person, you know, without trying to take substances all the time. Or, you know, I had to always be fucked up. And like, I don't think that what I was doing before I went there was even really that bad. I think if my parents would have just been like, "Hey, I want to invest in you. I want to care about you and know what's going on," instead of just like, someone else will take care of it. Someone else will take care of it. Like, I don't feel like I got to have that respect, I guess. I don't know. So it led to a lot of really fucked up things. And for me, a lot of really abusive, toxic relationships, substance abuse. I don't know how the fuck I'm still alive sometimes, because something's looking out for me. I know it, because there's so many times that I should be dead, and I tried, but that's not the plan. So I'm grateful
Now, I'm 38 now, you know, this has been a long time, but the whole reason I really want to do this is just because I don't think I can continue to move forward in my life without being able to let go of the past. And now that it's out there and it's in my face every day, I have to keep maintain, you know, and just keep moving forward. I have so much that I'm doing, and staying busy has definitely helped, but it's like I haven't been able to let it go. Like there's still little things that just will happen that will trigger me, you know. And I don't know. I've used all the drugs. I've gotten clean off of them by my own free will, my own choice. There are good drugs out there. There are bad drugs out there. It is what it is. You know, time and place and everything. But I feel like I got robbed from a young age of just being able to develop in a healthy atmosphere. I mean, I don't know who puts their kids on drugs at 8 years old.
Yeah, they put me on drugs at 5 for ADHD. They had me on Ritalin at like age 5. And they had me going to doctors before that, trying to diagnose me with ADHD and stuff.
Yeah, I got diagnosed with ADHD at a really young age. And they're doing using experimental drugs on me to see what would work. And I remember I was 12 when my mom was like, these drugs are just making you insane. Like, none of this is working. And she would, when I was with her, she would take me off cold turkey. She's like, but then I was going through these withdrawals and I felt like shit all the time and I didn't want to do anything. So I also felt like I was just being constantly in that cycle of like feeling like shit. And then just, I don't remember a lot of stuff because it was like a haze, you know, like my brain didn't get to develop all the way before they just started fucking with my chemistry. And it took me a long time to be able to kind of like see clearly. I remember when I turned 31, that's when I had like that, everything kind of clicked, like the world looked different. I was like, oh, you know, like this okay, you know, I see now from a different perspective. And yeah, that like even to this day it's hard because I live with my aunt and uncle. They're elderly, you know, like, and they're, you know, my uncle just turned 82, my aunt's 79, and they've been kind of my saving grace. You know, they've been together so fucking long, like 60 years or something like that, and they still put up with each other's shit. And you know, it's adorable to watch and see that these people have this relationship and we're able to stay together through it all. Because for me, all I ever saw was shit falling apart in my family. And you know, I that's why I would run away, because I just was like, I can't be around this chaos. But being with them for the last few years, they've provided me with a safe space to kind of go through all this stuff and like learn and grow. And my dogs can be with me, and they've seen me go through trials and tribulations, ups and downs, and they still cared and loved me and let me go through that in their space. Like they would, you know, they'd give me shit sometimes, and that's what they were supposed to do. That's what any parent would do. Sorry, one sec. And you know, I'm getting now in my late 30s what I should have been getting when I was a kid, and I relish in it. I'm so grateful for them. They're super religious and stuff, but at the same time, like, I'm kind of glad for that. You know, like, they're 110% giving me a safe space with not allowing, like, guys can't stay the night, boyfriends can't come stay the night, stuff like that. And I appreciate that, because that really gives me the chance to, like, not feel like I have to go out there and do that. Because for a long time, I was, like, going out and trying to fill this void. But now I really appreciate being able to have that safe space to just come home to and be like, no, you're not allowed in here. And we have a fucking shotgun above the door, so don't even try it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We have the sticks out here. And yeah, I'm just like, as soon as this program thing came out, because before my aunt and uncle would be like, oh, I would bring it up and be like, well, because of the program, I have these quirks with these things, and I'm struggling right now. And I would have these, you know, talks with them, but they didn't get it. They didn't understand. You know, they just did their best. But they kept telling me, you can't keep blaming the program. You can't keep blaming. Yes, I fucking can. That place traumatized the shit out of me, you know, and it sucks. And my dad was, you know, recently like, oh, I see, you know, that I'm over it, but obviously you're not, and that's okay. And I was like, wow, that's the nicest thing you fucking said to me in a long time when it comes to the program thing, because, you know, my mom feels incredibly guilty and hates talking about it because of the way she feels. But, you know, I told her that the program thing came out, and I don't blame them, you know, because they were brainwashed too. They were getting fucking robbed blind with, you know, that was a lot of money. I only know that Jamaica was like 30 something grand a year or something like that. And they were forking that shit over. And I know Spring Creek was way more expensive.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't even know what the numbers are, but
it's like 175,000 or something like that.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Spring Creek, in the documentary, you'll see this, but Spring Creek is actually the place that made some of the most money. Like, they made over $2 billion. I think it was like $2 billion. Like, it's fucking insane. That's literally insane.
Yeah.
Literally all gave us all PTSD and fucking lifelong trauma.
Yeah, and I just sit there and like I have to bite my tongue sometimes because I want to be like, well, if you would have taken all that money that you threw at them and invested it into me with actually caring about figuring something out, like that probably there would have been some holistic doctor or something that you could have done, and I know that they were brainwashed. So yeah. I have to bite my tongue on that with them because I get it, you know, I can't always be a dickhead. I'm not my father, you know, like I'm not going to be that person. I try to be compassionate and I try to be caring because that's just who I am and what I know. I've gone through so much shit that like I can't fathom doing that to somebody else. And I think the universe and God and all the gods that I came out of that place sterile. I don't know if it was from there or what, but I finally, after being, you know, out of there for a while, I ended up getting a fertility test and they found that I was sterile a couple of times, once when I was 18 and then later on in life when I, you know, moved to LA and got married. And there's bugs in here. And yeah, that sucked because, you know, I couldn't do what I thought I was supposed to do as a woman naturally. And so that fucked me up to a point where I started, you know, using a lot more alcohol and just be, you know, but now I'm grateful for that. Honestly, I'm happy that I don't have to go through that because I think whatever is out there was like, you suffered enough, you know. And I see my friends, one of my good friends, she just fucking hung herself recently and she left behind a 7 or 8-year-old boy, maybe younger than that, you know, like I see what having kids do to women these days, and I'm grateful that I have a partner now that he had a double vasectomy. He doesn't want kids either. That's been a hard part in my relationships. There's these men that I would get involved with, you know, they wanted to have kids, and I was like, nah, that's not going to happen. They're like, oh no, it can happen, and I'd keep trying to figure out that I was right. And then they would move on or abuse me or, you know, try to make me feel bad about it or whatever. And it just sucked. It was really hard to go through. And I'm just grateful for who's in my life now that I can, you know, not have to worry about that pressure or feeling like they're going to flip out on me about it or something. And because they don't understand. And then you can't really talk to anybody about it because they don't fucking understand the program either. And, you know, they'd had silver spoon in their mouth their whole lives or whatever. And, you know, I had to go through my shit. And I did a lot of listening and a lot of taking abuse before I finally was like, nah, dude, fuck this. Like, even just in the last couple of years, I've been with my current partner and he's never once raised his hand to me. He's never once tried to make me, I mean, yeah, here and there, everyone's a bit of a narcissist sometimes, but I think a lot of it was the alcohol. He's cut way back since I did. And he's become, you know, a lot more supportive. And I feel like I'm getting to a better place now with everything. And then, you know, I just, as soon as I got off the boozing and stuff every night, like everything turned around for me. Like I'm co-hosting a radio show with my friend Chan, who's hanging out with me right now.
off camera for support. And like, I got this new badass job. I'm starting culinary arts school. Like, everything feels right now. Yeah, everything feels like it's falling into place. It's just that little bit with the program coming out and everybody coming out of the woodworks that is just like throwing me off a little bit, you know? Like, I have to sometimes not look at my Facebook, even though I need to post things for my promotional stuff for the karaoke nights or open mics or whatever I'm doing, promoting bands. It's just getting flooded with people coming out of the woodwork that I hadn't seen in fucking years, you know, or these pictures of me that are people that I think are me because there's so many similarities. And, you know, it's just kind of a mind fuck. You know, I don't know. I'm just grateful that I decided to get off of booze when I did, because I don't know if I'd be able to handle all this shit otherwise. I've got a dark mind, and it gets scary in there sometimes. So, you know, that's why I'm so outwardly positive, and I try to make people laugh, is because deep down inside, like, that little 15-year-old girl is still in there fucking dying.
Definitely. What was the hardest part about being at Spring Creek, and what was the hardest part about being at Tranquility Bay, and how did you handle it while you were there?
The hardest part about Spring Creek was I felt like psychologically tortured there constantly, and dealing with gaining the weight. Like, I don't know what the fuck they were feeding us, but it was not good. And like, I know they had an opposite schedule for the guy. All the guys slimmed down because they were like making them work out right after they ate, and then to the point where they were throwing up.
Yeah.
And we'd go work out and then eat, so our bodies, you know, would hold on to all that. And the food was trash. And I think it really was hard for me because I have body dysmorphia issues now, and I already struggled with the way that I looked because I'm a fucking teenager. I was still trying to figure it all out, you know. I was still experimenting with makeup and different stuff and hairstyles and trying to figure out what I liked. And then for that to happen to me, that was really hard. I don't know if I dealt with it very well or not. I kept it in, and I just was unhappy, you know. I didn't really deal with it. I just kind of wrote it out, I think.
That's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. It's okay to not deal with it.
Yeah, right. I mean, even to this day, like, I'm grateful for quitting alcohol because I've lost weight. I feel like I look different. Like, I made a post today of like just a month difference, and I was like, holy shit. To me, that's huge. And you know, that's something that was really, really tough, along with being able to get along, you know, with the girls, like the clickiness. It was so hard because I felt alienated all the time. Because I was different, you know. I was a tomboy. I was, you know, goofy and a little bit slow on the learning side, and you know, I felt like I definitely was treated differently because of that, and it hurt. It was really hard. As for Tranquility Bay, I think the hardest part for that was dealing with at first being humbled so much by lack of amenities, by not having those things that I was used to. Like Spring Creek, yeah, that was a lot of shit taken away, but it was still, you know, there's still shit, you know, condiments and, you know, hot water, hot showers, you know, mirrors, you know, soap that was a liquid form, you know what I mean? Like, not harsh chemically stuff, you know. And you could use fragrances in Jamaica. Like, you could have like stuff that smelled good, which was awesome because I couldn't have that shit at all at Spring Creek. So I guess, yeah, just the hardest part really was getting through to, you know, having to be humbled to wash my clothes by hand, learn how to deal with that. And you know, the excruciating like training that we did for Fun Day, you know, I was so overweight and so out of shape that I had a hard time with the physical stuff for a while. And I think that was a big thing for me. Also, just kind of the brutalness of when you go to the nurse, you know, you're getting stripped down. Like, she does not care about your comfort. You know, like the lack of medical attention to anybody. That was really hard for me too, because I was, you know, in a lot of pain and going through a lot of stuff, and it was just like, oh, well, deal with it, you know? So I think that, and then, I mean, the water, like eating the food in the water was really tough. I did lose some weight. I went down from 170 to 140 something when I came home. I weighed myself. I was like, oh, so I did lose weight. But that's because I wasn't eating. And, you know, other than that, like dealing with the staff and trying to work out those relationships was really hard too, because they were taking shit out on us as well throughout that whole thing, you know. Some of them were more compassionate than others, and after a while, you know, with like Miss Bolton and I did not get along at all in the beginning. She did not like me. I just rubbed her the wrong way. And I did my best. I tried so fucking hard, you know. And Miss Campbell was pretty chill most of the time. She didn't really care like about being super strict, and we had fun with her. But building those relationships with the staff members that were also, you know, dealing with whatever the fuck they're dealing with and taking it out on us, you know, even both places, that's how it was, like getting through with the staff. Sometimes you'd feel like you're being, you know, favored or like, oh, this is good. And then the next day, nope, you know, you're getting dropped or treated like some, you know, it was just awful, man. Like that was really hard for me, like building relationships and then coming out of there and not trusting anybody. Like, who do I have to be to you, you know, to make this work? Because I just want to get through. I just want to get through the day. I don't want any trouble, you know. And so that's something that's still to this day is kind of difficult for me. Oh, here's 1 second. You need the key? Yeah. No, here. It's this one. Yeah. So, yeah, the relationship part, and then knowing how to trust, and then also my image of myself, you know, coming out of there, like I said, that's been really tough, even to this day. It's hard to not be critical of myself when it comes to looking at my body, or, you know, luckily I'm with a partner now that is very healthy for me and is very supportive and tells me I'm beautiful all the time. But, you know, I've had other relationships that were, you know, not so good, and they played on that insecurity a lot that I developed there. So I think those were probably the hardest parts for me.
Okay. And if you could go back in a time machine and not go through these places, would you do it, and why?
If I didn't have to go through these places?
Yeah, knowing what you know now, would you go back in a time machine and not go through those places?
I would absolutely not go through those places knowing what I know now. Hell no. That place delayed my growth and my, you know, my health, and it just caused me so many setbacks on so many levels. You know, I would never send somebody to a place like that. I don't think there's anything good to come from those places. I am so against institutionalization. I feel like compassion is key always. The tough love thing is absolute bullshit, and it's damaging, and people are dying over this. So kids are killing themselves, killing each other. There was one kid that got out of Spring Creek or one of those programs. I can't remember. He was in there with me. I remember his face. Maybe it was Tranquility Bay. He just looked like evil, you know? He got out of there. As soon as he got out of there, he killed both his fucking parents. And I think I don't know if he got sent to jail or what, but that dude like went on a murder spree. Like, but he'd been in military schools before that too. So he was all, you know, like there's nothing good about traumatizing kids to scare them straight, or, you know, like the compassion, love is the only thing that's going to win. And if you don't have the time to be compassionate and love your kid enough to give them the space to go through something, and you're just going to hand them off to somebody else, like that terrifies me. It scares the shit out of me. Like I hate that people are still, and I can't believe that they're still doing this shit today. When I see these posts, it's like there's still facilities open. They're still doing this method. Like these are cults. These are brainwashing mechanisms, like based off of people like B.F. Skinner. Like they would brainwash us after our self-help tapes at the end of the night with Holocaust like videos of people, bodies getting buried. Like just, it was brutal, murderous stuff. Like why? Like they didn't do that at Spring Creek, but at Tranquility Bay, it was all just morbid shit. And like that, I still like, I have those dreams that integrate, you know, reliving, but it's into that, you know, they all kind of mesh together and give my brain this like really scary place when I have dreams.
Like, I can't take melatonin because I get into too deep of a sleep, and I have night terrors. I wake up sweating like every night. Even to this day, I still have terrible dreams. Now, a lot of the time, I'm grateful that I smoke enough weed that I don't really remember it all, but I wake up with the sweats and, you know, tense, and I have to like take time to roll my back out with my big foam roller, and I drink chamomile tea during the day, you know, like caffeine, it fucks me up. So it's, yeah, it's been really fucking tough afterwards. And I would never condone, or if I ever was to have a child, I would never, ever in my mind consider sending them to a facility. Ever. Absolutely not.
What do you think you needed instead of being sent away? You kind of went into this already, but I didn't ask you specifically.
Well, I think that what I needed was to be detoxified from the premature medication that I had been on since I was 8 years old. I needed to be able to grow, like let my brain develop and heal from that, and my body, and, you know, my parents, I don't feel like my parents were really there, you know, like they weren't really around. Like my mom she was a nuclear waste disposal expert. She lived a lot of the time and worked in Russia. My dad, you know, was all over the board. I had a nanny growing up. Like my parents just weren't there. Like I wish they could have just have been there, you know, or cared enough to be there more, you know, like, I don't know. I just feel like I was kind of caught in this like limbo of unwantedness. And so I just started taking off and doing my own thing. And then, you know, they kind of used that against me. Like, oh, you never wanted to be here. I'm like, no, you just weren't here. And how many times I had babysitters, or you'd leave me with your alcoholic fucking boyfriend at their farm to like hang out with the animals and stuff. Like, that's what you did. You wasn't, yeah, I get it. Career women, career men, whatever. You don't have the time. I understand. But like, that shit fucked me up, dude. If my parents would have been able to take that time to help me develop all the way before subjecting me to all this trauma, I feel like things would have been way different. I think that's what I needed, you know, and the compassion and the attention, the time, because that's what it really came down to. Is I was seeking out their attention because they were never around for me, and when they were coming down on me. So I was like, two wrongs don't make a right.
Exactly. All right. Is there anything else you want people to know about your experience, or anything that you might tell a parent thinking about sending their kid to a place like this?
Yeah, I would strongly advise that if you are a parent and you are dealing with an out of control teen, to do your best to find a safe space that's neutral, that you can get together with that child and really figure out what it is that's going on with them, and think about yourself too. Like, what is it that, because if you're the parent of this child, you're in charge of their life, right? They're a minor. It falls onto you, your responsibility. And how are you being irresponsible with that child to the point where now they're feeling that it's okay for them to act out in these ways, that you're now considering sending them to an institution to help them, you know, be accountable for your own dumbass and the dumbass kid that you created and now are, you know, schlepping around with all this chaos. You know, that's what I would say. Other than that, I think, you know, definitely don't drug your kids. You know, be mindful of what your toxic relationships. We see that it affects us too, and, you know, take the time to do the work on yourself that you're expecting your kid to do. It's got to be input equaling output, common sense. That's it.
Exactly. All right. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate you. And if you ever want to do part 2, if things come up or whatnot, just let me know and we'll make it happen.
Yeah, I'm going to watch the show. I'm not going to have time for it tonight because I got a lot going on, but I'm going to try to watch it here coming up, and maybe this weekend. My aunt and uncle said that they might be down to watch it with me. I know I'm still taking my time, but yeah, I'll definitely be hitting you back up. Thank you for taking time to hear me out. I appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem. And if you watched so far in the video, please like, subscribe if you're not already, and share the video. Let's get these places shut down. We will catch you on the next one. Peace out, guys.
Later.